Hey guys, it's Rosie, welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing more of an educational video. I'm going to be comparing and contrasting going to college in the city versus in like a rural area. So I have a big list. I do know a lot about going to college in a rural area because that's what basically everybody I know has done. So city is a bit more difficult, and I'd say that all of these are more general statements. They don't exactly apply to every school, but these are just the ones that I came up with. So I have them divided into three main categories, which are housing, entertainment, food, and then just kind of more general things. So let's get started, I guess. All of these points are for four-year undergraduate programs. I don't really know much about like community colleges or other programs, so these are all for the general four-year undergraduate. So in a city, for housing, there will be less dorm-based and fewer housing communities, which is kind of harder to make friends because I know in rural settings, people are making friends by seeing people all the time in the hallways, and there are housing communities, like for example at Dartmouth, they have their own little houses, like Hogwarts houses, and it depends on where you live on campus. So there are more of a community that way, but then in a city you might be living in an apartment or something, because cities have much more choice to live in. You don't have to rely on dorms, whereas in a rural setting, there's a lot less choice. Sometimes worse housing is available for underclassmen, and I know for some colleges that freshmen are required to live on campus. And then other times there will be like group housing that you can rent out that is off campus. So there's just a lot more choice in a city than there is in a rural area. In a city, there's less green space generally, and it's kind of harder to pursue outdoor activities. You might have to leave the city to do that, but in a rural area, there is much more green space and access to the outdoors, which it really depends on kind of how you grew up and what you're used to, whether you want to be in close proximity to outdoor activities or not. For entertainment, there is a much wider scope of entertainment in a city, obviously, because it's just a larger area. There are a bunch more people there, so you're probably gonna have an easier time finding something that you'd like to do. In a rural area, entertainment may be provided by the college or other students, like in student groups, but there's generally a lot less entertainment, and you're probably going to end up doing things that are school sponsored. There's much more choice in a city. You're not tied to like going to fraternities for parties, but in rural areas, a lot of times frat parties can be most of the entertainment going on at a time. There is a lot wider range of entertainment in a city. There are more options to consume, or you could pursue your passions, like if you wanted to take some sort of class that wasn't offered with your school. But mostly in rural areas, it's like sports games, parties, and club activities. So moving on to food. Any food in the city is available to you if you're going to college in the city, or any food from school if there are dining halls too. But in a rural area, you're much more limited by the restaurants around, probably in a very small town, or just school food. So you're not dependent on dining halls in a city, but you're often pretty tied to options at a rural school. Not as many people rely on dining halls in cities, so there's less interaction with people when you go to a dining hall, so you're not going to be running into your friends all the time there like you would at a smaller rural school. Dining hall can be a place to meet friends and see your friends too, as it's not really as much in a city. And then I just have some more general ideas. Schools in cities are generally going to be larger and on a much smaller campus. Transportation systems are really nice to go anywhere in the city, whereas you wouldn't really have that great of a transportation system available to you in a rural area generally. I know that in Dartmouth they have one bus that runs from Dartmouth, like slightly off campus, to Boston and I think Concord. And then there's one bus that runs around campus. But other than that, there's really no transportation there. So you kind of have to have a car or have some sort of other option for transportation. When you go to school in a city, you might kind of consider yourself a city dweller because you're kind of in real life. You might have an apartment and you probably go out to get food. You're not like staying on campus, but you're kind of a city dweller first and then a college student second. But when you go to college on a rural campus, then you are first thing a college student, and then you get the more traditional college experience. It really depends on what you're used to with all of these, but these are kind of my main ideas that I have come up with that kind of contrast things that you may encounter in a city versus in a rural area, depending on where you go to college. So I hope this was helpful to you in deciding whether you want to go to college in a city or in a rural area. I've definitely been doing a lot of college videos recently, so if you haven't seen those, make sure to check out all of my campus tours. I've been driving to a lot of places around New England or New York and looking around their campuses, so make sure you look at those videos. I find that it's really nice to look back so I can compare which colleges I like better. So make sure to check out my social media at Rosie Revolts and my Etsy shop also at Rosie Revolts and my book at getoutdoorsbook.com, and I will see you guys later. Bye!